Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome back, friends. I am trying to now recap whatever we have been doing so far, especially where writing is concerned. So, today's topic is different kinds of genres or different genres in business writing. So, that is what we are going to do. We will look at a couple of of course, I will recapitulate whatever we have been doing by way of good writing. No matter what we do and what we think, writing is an important skill, and what happens is when you neglect some of the important key points that should be followed when we write, especially in professional situations. So, welcome back again, and these are the objectives here of today's class: how to apply vocabulary, grammar and other skills which we have been doing in the previous modules. We have to understand different kinds of business writing, and also to provide skills to write meaningfully, purposefully, adapting to audience and context. This is the key feature of business writing, that you have to understand your audience. Remember again, this is not a casual and informal way of writing. We are not addressing our friends and relatives. We are trying to establish contact and business relationship with people who we do not know at all or may not know very well. Professionalism is the key word in business writing. Remember, why is good writing important? We have been doing this for quite a while, but remember that precise and a good way of writing, an artful way of writing is an indicator. It illustrates the mindset of the writer. When you ramble on and on, it shows that you do not have your wits about you, you do not know what you are trying to say. So, as I have been stressing upon in one of our previous classes, many of our previous classes, that be upfront. You should know, but be always polite. If necessary, be firm, but or stand, you may take a stand, but be always polite and firm. Poor and sloppy writing creates barriers between the reader and the writer, most often in business situations. Now, we have already seen a couple of examples earlier, how poor and sloppy, inappropriate kind of a writing creates hurdles between the writer and the writer. जब आप ठीक से नहीं लिखेंगे तो आप जो रिसीव करने वाला हो, जिसको जो आपका लेटर, आपका पत्र पढ़ेगा, जो आपकी रिपोर्ट पढ़ेगा, उसके ऊपर बहुत गलत इम्प्रेशन पड़ता है, उस पर गलत प्रभाव पड़ता है कि आप ऐसा लिख रहे हैं जो उस मौके के लिए ठीक नहीं है। तो टोन ज़रूरी है और यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड द सिचुएशन। तो किस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में आप पत्र लिख रहे हैं, रिपोर्ट लिख रहे हैं, वो ज़रूरी है। हम अपने दोस्तों को नहीं लिख रहे हैं, हम अपने मित्रों को नहीं लिख रहे हैं, हमें हमारे सामने जो व्यक्ति है वो वो ऐसा व्यक्ति है जिसके साथ हमें व्यापार की भाषा बोलनी है। तो इसलिए ज़रूरी है कि उसके साथ हम काफ़ी इस तरह की भाषा का प्रयोग करें जो प्रोफेशनल लगे, जो ऐसा ना लगे कि ये हमारे बहुत ही अंतरंग मित्र हैं या हमारे करीबी रिश्तेदार हैं, तो उनके साथ वो टोन हम उपयोग नहीं कर सकते। Please remember, like any other skill, good writing is a skill that is cultivated. You speak in a way because that's the way you have been speaking. If you use too much of slang and vernacular idiom, then that will become fossilized. In language, there is a word called fossilization, if bad language, aggressive behavior has become a part of your nature, body language, then it will remain forever, it will remain so forever. Good language, good writing is a skill that is cultivated over the years. Practice, read a lot and keep, as I have been telling you earlier also, make notes somewhere in your mobile phones, in your computer, in your notebook, make notes and always go back to anything interesting that you have come across. Practice. Some of the guidelines that we would stress for official writing would be that you should know your purpose and audience before you begin writing. Know your audience. हमें जानना चाहिए कि हमारे audience कौन है, हम किन को एड्रेस कर रहे हैं, किन लोगों को के सामने हम अपना जो हमारा जो भी है आइडिया उसको रख रहे हैं, तो वो कौन है. यू शुड नो द पर्पस. तो जानना चाहिए कि इसका किस कारणवश हम लिख रहे हैं और किन लोगों के लिए हम लिख रहे हैं. रिमेंबर व्हेन यू राइट अ मेल टू द डायरेक्टर ऑफ योर इंस्टीट्यूट, यू कैन नॉट बी writing it in a way that you would write to your friend or to any elder member of your or older member of your family. Okay. We are not going to be extremely pally and chatty with people who are above in hierarchy, in institutional hierarchy. Remember that this kind, when knowledge of your purpose and audience is there, then you will help, it will help you focus better on your writing. The way you write will add to your cause. Always avoid beating around the bush. Don't write, don't overwrite, and be forthright in stating the purpose, your objective to the reader, to the intended reader. And always remember to maintain a civil and polite tone. It may come very with difficulty to some people to maintain civil and polite tone. However, in business situations, it's of great help. We should also remember to understand the nature of your audience. So, as I have been saying, remember the tone. An email to a fellow colleague or to a client will require altering your tone. हम जिनके साथ काम करते हैं उनके साथ हम अलग तरह की टोन यूज़ करते हैं, और जिनके साथ हमें व्यापार करना हो उनके साथ हम अलग. जिनके साथ आप काम करते हैं, that is your colleagues, you may use a more or rather a friendlier, a chatty kind of a tone, but not to a client, not with a client. Make clear how your text is relevant to your reader and not just to you. This will make them more responsive to your message. And always use a blend of sentences. You have been doing simple, compound and complex sentences. Look at the various coordinators, look at the various clauses, revise them, see if you can practice them. Write just an informal letter to one of your friends using those kinds of sentences. You will find that it helps a lot. आप अपने किसी मित्र को कोई एक पत्र लिखें जिसमें सिंपल और कंपाउंड और कॉम्प्लेक्स सेंटेंसेस का यूज़ किया गया हो, कि उपयोग किया गया हो, और इस तरह से आप इसको प्रैक्टिस करें. Always remember to break down your writing into smaller tasks. Remember, people are overwhelmed, they get intimidated when they then set out to write. Many a time in exam situations, particularly when you are asked to write 500 words, an essay or report in 500 words in 1 hour, people get extremely daunting, yeah, they get daunted rather. To make the process less miserable, less difficult, you should know how to pool in your ideas and thoughts. For example, whenever I appear for writing something that it's the time bound exercise, I make notes, whether on a notebook, in a notebook or in my computer, but I always make notes. So, pool in your ideas and thoughts. उन्हें आप कभी भी बदल सकते हैं, अपने विचार आप कभी भी बदल सकते हैं क्या क्या लिखना, बट इट्स इम्पॉर्टेंट टू पूल मेक नोट्स ऑफ, क्रिएट एन आउटलाइन एंड दिस इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, एक रूपरेखा आप अपने बना के रखें and that is important for organizing your ideas, your thoughts, your messages into a cohesive sequence. Start writing these ideas into sentences and create your own message. Revise, this is very important, you have to revise, you have to write multiple drafts. In exams, yes, again you may have 2 minutes, but keep those 2 minutes aside to revise your drafts. I have noticed the best of students, because they get overwhelmed by the time constraints, they don't they end up making very silly mistakes. So, avoid that, be your own editor. Also remember, for good writing, try to formulate what you would like to convey in 3 to 5 short sentences. What is the gist, इसका उद्देश्य क्या है, क्या लिखना चाह रहे हैं, so that should be always there in your mind. While organizing your thoughts, it would help to put it under different topics. I am not suggesting that you should make subheadings or headings in your writing, and many a time examiners do not want that. So, always know what is expected in a particular kind of a situation. अगर subheadings or bullet points वाली writing आपके यहाँ एक्सेप्टेबल है तो आप उसे करिए, अगर नहीं है तो उसे अवॉइड करिए, बट ऑलवेज ऑर्गेनाइज योर थॉट्स इन पैराग्राफ्स. Look at this premise. We are still talking about guidelines for official writing, business writing. Now, here is a premise. You have been trying to implement a green protocol in your office. Green protocol is to be more environmentally friendly. You are good friends with the catering vendor who provides office lunch to the staff, but there is a great deal of plastic waste created after each meal. You think that the green protocol needs to be implemented in this area as well. You need to write a letter to the vendor based on the following premise. Here your purpose is to gather information about the lunch system and your tone should be friendly. Here is the sample. Dear Anu, and this is a response to the premise that we have set in the earlier slide. For the past 2 months, the company has adopted a green protocol. I was wondering if you have been intimated about the same. The management has been considering being more environmentally aware in all aspects. So, look at the introduction itself. At the upfront, you are telling the vendor that the company has adopted a green protocol and that is what you want. So, we continue. The lunch facility that you have been so graciously providing has been one of our concerns. As you are aware, there is a good deal of plastic waste created after each meal. Do you think we could meet at a time of convenience to discuss a solution to the same? Yours faithfully, etc. Remember that what we are trying to do here is to provide a I would also like to draw your attention to the name here, dear Anu. We are not saying dear sir or madam. That reflects that there is some kind of a familiarity between the sender and the receiver. So, therefore, the last line fits. Do you think we could meet? If you are sending a mail to someone who is institutionally your superior or superior in the hierarchy, then it is very important that we do not end with a question like this. Here it would go, here it fits, because you are not writing to the head of the department, to the vice chancellor, to a company head, but here it fits. It shows, also reflects a certain kind of a familiarity or friendliness, not friendship, between the writer and the receiver. Do you think we could meet? Otherwise, it would have become more formal. This is a rather semi-formal style of writing. You have been trying to implement a green protocol in your office. You have had repeated problems with the catering vendor who provides office lunch to their staff, and in this scenario your tone is stern, but you do not want to cut away your relationship, or you do not want to end your relationship with the vendor. So, it is the difference of tone, and let us look at this. Dear Miss, and your name, person's the receiver's name, and look at the way it is addressed now. So, tone is different now. We are not trying to establish any kind of friendliness. You are aware of the recent adoption of the green protocol by the company, as there has been incessant intimation from our part to all our vendors. The lunch facility that you provide has been one of our major concerns, as a huge amount of plastic waste, please insert of, is created after each meal. We have approached you regarding the same multiple times. Now, look at the sternness of tone, but still polite. Yet, we have observed no change in the serving practices. If there is no action from your side soon, we will be forced to cancel the agreement with your company, hoping to hear from you soon. So, here is a very good example. Now, next exercise. You have commissioned an architecture firm to design and build an office space for you. The design you receive falls short of providing for visually challenged employees in the company. You have been repeatedly trying to get this point across to the firm without much success. Now, here we are talking about being sensitive to people with special needs, colleagues and friends with special needs. So, what are we supposed to do here? You need to write a note to the head of the firm about this. Assess the purpose of the note and the tone you need to adopt. You are good friends with the vendor that provides stationery to your office for a long time. That is the second one. You notice that the quality of the products received. You need to write a letter or note to the vendor about this. So, two kinds of letters. One is to design the office space for people with special needs, and then complaining about the quality of stationery. Think, take a moment or two, and you have been reading so many business letters so far, what you should do, how you should write up. So, for answer, your tone is stern, but you do not want to end relationship, you do not want to burn bridges. To burn bridges means to end all kinds of contacts. The purpose is to effectively communicate the concern about incorporating facilities that are sensitive to the needs of the visually challenged employees in the office. And secondly, in the second one, where you are talking about vendor and stationery, your tone is friendly. You would not like to terminate a long standing friendship. Your purpose is to inquire about the fall in quality, decline in quality of the products received, and sort of get information about what is going on and if things can be improved. So, so far we have been doing letter writing in official setups, official communication. Now, let us move on to talk about business reports. Reports, what are reports? Most of you who are at tertiary level, who are already students at some place or the other, you know that report writing forms an important part of your syllabus. Those who are already working, they know that you have to write reports on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis about your projects. Remember, reports are used to inform and update people on a particular project or topic. Every one of us need to, people who are in professional situations, we need to write reports. People who are into, let us say, businesses, they need to sometimes hire people to write reports for them where environmental protection is concerned. So, report writing is an integral part of our business and official existence. Its purpose, a report's purpose is to convey information, and sometimes it may help us in decision making, certain decisions, that whether this project is feasible or was feasible or should continue or there should be a sequel to it. All these things are based on how effective your report is. Remember, in each step of report writing, your task is to make it clear to your reader, intended reader, what they need to learn about or what they need to act upon. A formal report could have several passages, and it could be several passages. Length and accuracy of facts is important, language is important. Remember, if you look up reports on any of the websites and on the net, there are a number of examples of excellently written reports. You should look these up or those up. Now, a formal report, remember, is structured with standard sections. People do not play around with the structuring of a report, because it is by and large an official piece of writing. Do note that each institution might have their own format of reports or for reports. Most standard practices include writing a title. This should be descriptive of your report. It usually should include the date of submission, completion, name of the authors, people who were involved in that business and their organization. And then the body and summary. Summary section sums up the key arguments made by the report and its conclusions. Content is important. This includes the various sections in your report, and then it has to be paginated. So, the corresponding page numbers include what. So, on the title page you include the sections, that what you are going to talk about, and the corresponding page numbers. Remember, the titles should be descriptive of the content they refer to. You have to write the introduction. This section intends to set the stage. Okay, you set the ball rolling and give the readers a taste of what follows. Try to make your introduction interesting so that the readers feel like pursuing the rest of your text. The body, as you know, it should include the main content of your report. There should be recommendation, there should be conclusions, and perhaps scope for further work in this area. Recommendations call for specific action suggestions to be implemented. Here is a template. An internship report is an example of reports and executive summary. So, this is the summary, and look at the last couple of lines. My profile as an intern was to carry out secondary research in the area of building energy efficiency management methodologies across the globe. This included literature review, contacting various global agencies and government departments, accessing nationwide databases and newspaper reports over years. So, this is how you work on it. Contents: systems across the world, and then a list. Look at the way page numbers are given opposite each country, and then conclusion. Here is a sample introduction. Buildings are responsible for at least 40% of energy use in many countries. This figure is rising pretty fast due to the rapid increase in construction activities in many countries, including China and India. Thoughtful action and meticulous frameworks to regulate the energy footprints of buildings is hence essential and can help tackle climate change and energy use. So, look at the way this has been done. We are introducing the topic upfront. The conclusion is a lengthy one, please go through it very fast. So, from here we move on to an exercise. Another exercise: imagine a situation where your company wants to break into the Indian market with your new range of healthy food products. So, you are assuming that you are an international brand and you want to introduce your work or your products into the Indian market. Create a sample framework for your report, illustrating each section and writing 1 or 2 sentences describing what the contents of the section could be according to you. Remember, you can do this in several different ways, but the section could be the title, prospects of the emerging Indian market of health food or healthy foods. Executive summary, this will give an overview of your findings. Contents, this will include all the subheadings you plan to have in the body of your text based on your research. You have in the introduction, right? You could begin by talking about the need for healthier food products and the state of health of the consumer group you wish to target, and then talk about the company's plan to introduce the array of goods. The body, and then you can present all the ideas and the findings of your research, conclusion and recommendation. Please go through this very standard format. Again, let me warn you, formats differ from institute to institute, company to company, corporation, one corporate sector to another. However, you should be familiar with your style, the style that your institution follows. We can just give you some basic guidance and overview of how to do these things, but when you go down into the depth of your writing, you should know what is suggested, what is your company policy. Let me take you to now how to write articles. Not many of us are in the business of writing business articles, but just to have an overview of this in case somebody is interested. Remember that writing a formal article could involve learning to research a lot. We have Business India, Business Times, Financial Times, Forbes. These are the standard international, some of the particularly when I talk about Forbes, then it is an international journal, an international magazine. So, these are the and even in most standard newspapers, there is always a business section for which they require experts to write their assessments of business situations. So, formal writing, writing a formal article requires a great deal of research, gathering data and information. It also includes, it may include interviewing people, gathering your finding and thoughts, and finally writing a story around it. So, we do not just sit and write emotionally. Business letters, like all business communication, they do not ride on emotions. You have to collect data, you have to do your research. This is not an exercise in creative writing. So, just because you feel that such and such policy may hurt the underprivileged section of society, do not set yourself to start writing a business article based on it. It has to be, leave that to people who are experts in that kind of writing. Where if you call yourself a business analyst, then you have to write in a different way. You have to interview people, experts who talk about both aspects of the situation. You have to gather enough data and you have to do your research well. Again, you have to always be very objective in business writing. As in technical communication, business communication too depends on objectivity. You have to be logically sound, reasonable, and ride on rationality. You have to convince your readers, but in a polite tone. Here are a few tips to write effective business articles. Research, review your notes and research. A good way is to write an opening paragraph of the article and always incorporate a hook, something that grabs the attention of the readers. Remember what is a hook. A common format of an article is an introduction, body and conclusion. Stick to that. Always remember that the ideas you hint at in your introductions are presented in your conclusion also. You cannot introduce a new idea in your conclusion. I advise you to write multiple drafts. This is essential as it not only helps you improve the technicality of your writing, but also help you get a chance to review your own arguments and make necessary changes. While writing your notes and the first draft, make sure to attribute all your sources where you draw facts and arguments from. Many a time writers interview people who do not want to be named, but still want to give information. Well, that is investigative writing. In business writing, you have to be able to support your ideas with the names and sources. So, you should be able to name your sources. Keep your language direct and simple. Do not try to be extremely creative here and confuse your readers. Know your target readers, that is extremely important. Conclude by drawing on the arguments presented in the body of your article, but do not repeat your arguments, it will tire your readers. Also remember, most newspaper and magazine articles, they come with a specific format, a word limit, stick to that. Here is an exercise for you. You are asked to write an article on bitcoins and what they are worth in the current day for the weekly financial magazine. Okay. Let us assume that you are employed by a financial magazine, or you are writing a report for your own college magazine. So, come up with a rough format of how the article would look like. Remember, introduce with a hook. For example, playing along with the Bitcoin trend lies between wagering and investing. So, that is a hook. Now, you have hooked the readers on to something. Body of the article, that should start from brief history of Bitcoins, the process of valuation is the current trends in the economy. Any article presenting facts is also like voicing an opinion, you should know where you stand. And conclusion, supporting the arguments made in the body of the articles is that bitcoins are fuzzy and are not grounded in solid economics. The conclusion should highlight this without repeating the arguments or whatever the stand that you plan to take. From here, let me move on to revise what we have been doing yesterday, what we were doing yesterday, that is presentation scripts. This is one example where I would like you to look at the passage and jot down the key points of the passage. Nearly every company today is embracing a transformation journey enabled by the convergence of technologies. These are strategic business transformation programs that can help an organization weather the digital storm with one of the three outcomes: diminish or perish, survive but not make significant impact, and emerge as a leader through a game-changing disruptive play. No prizes for guessing which one an ambitious CEO will choose. The journey of a CEO is no different from that of ambitious kings who gazed into the crystal ball and planned strategies to grow their kingdoms beyond the empires they created or inherited. Those who successfully grew their empires became rulers of many lands and were called emperors. The key to the success of CEOs with an emperor's ambition not only lies in what they do, but more importantly how they do it. Let us look at some of the aspects that make a strategic business transformation journey successful, focused on, of course, the growth of the empire. And here you have focus on the human experience. Please go through the passage. I have already given you the source. And here is an answer to the key points. and this is important. It is a lengthy passage, but look at the key points, and when you make your own script out of this passage, or you want to make a PowerPoint presentation, you should be able to mention the highlights. Remember, when you make a PPT, and this is something that I always tell or ask my students to do, that do not have lines and lines of and paragraphs after in your PPT. PPT should have key points only, or diagrams and charts and graphs only, or perhaps a strong visual image. It should not be filled with text. So, key points here in this particular passage that we just did. Due to the digital age and the proliferation of technology around the world, many companies are being forced to rethink their development strategies. That is given upfront. A business enterprise is like an empire, and the CEO of the enterprise is akin to an emperor. A successful business enterprise is not just a question of what kinds of strategies are implemented, but also a question of how they are implemented. So, that is another important point. And lastly, there is a need to look beyond technology and focus on actual human experience. That is the key point of the second paragraph. So, please keep all these ideas in mind. Thank you very much.